Hello, it's me, Hank. We're doing another show here at Winners and Losers headquarters. Winners and Losers with Hank Thompson. That's me. Welcome back, everybody. Took a little break. It wasn't a break. It's been a messy brain. The circus in my brain burned up. If you can imagine a chaotic, I've been having a weird meltdown this last month, and that's sort of, I wouldn't say like out in the streets running around like that Coney 2020 guy, masturbating on the sidewalk. I keep all that indoors. Plus, I don't look as good as that guy does naked, or else I probably would, to be honest. But been in a bit of a stressful, kind of depressive pit recently. Things have been tumbling. I actually almost did this podcast yesterday, but I was in I just was not in the headspace for it. I was in my feels about my fucking beard, things going on in my other stuff that I'm not talking about, or that I'm keeping private for now. And so I wasn't in the mood for it yesterday. Even though I set up everything, I had everything working, and I couldn't do it. But what I did do, because here's the thing, I have a hard time lying. And for me to sit here and say I'm doing okay hurts me, because that's lying. That's me not being honest, or not being fully open, or not offering the trade I'm hoping to offer to an audience that responds to me, that this sort of blustery, open honesty that I hope to transmit. I'm not even sure if that's my goal, really. But so either I'm going to lie or I'm going to bum you out. So I'd rather not do either of those. And yesterday, if I had recorded it yesterday, it would have been a big bummer, because I was just there, and I was just in that brain space. And I also can tell that I can feel my brain. One of the ways my head works is I'm very hyper aware. So like this chaotic circus, this tornado of thoughts that's always happening in my head. The moment I wake up, this thought tornado just goes, and it takes about 3 seconds, and it goes, he's awake, it's time for chaos. So there's been phases of my life where I've tempered that down. And in the recent years, as this sort of progression has gone on, it's been an incredibly stressful last 40 years, last 20 years, last 30, 20 years. But really, like, my adult life has been kind of a fucking mess. And the last 10 years have been really tough too. Living in LA has been pretty unhealthy for me. Not that it's LA's fault. It's just that I think I'm just like a piece of Canadian tundra, like a little bush that's supposed to live in Canada, far north of where even the Canadians can survive. And I'm in LA, and that's a bad, I'm not in the right none of the right nutrients for what I need to feel good are here. I'll have a hard time finding those things somewhere else too, but I just need less stimulation, less chaos, less expense. And hopefully someday I can wind up in a community of friends, and I'm willing to accept community through internet, partially what I hope to build with my show, and maybe connecting with other shows too. And really, I've done this long enough when I was doing SuckProfessor years, over the years, enough to kind of have a sense for how many amazing, cool people are out there too. I've gotten to know listeners and people, and who've become friends and stuff. And like, anyway, okay, so LA's not been a good time for me. And a huge component of this story is that I didn't know I was autistic. My God, it's like I was, this metaphor hit me yesterday. By the way, I'm feeling better today because I took a little action. So this is actually a guy at his low point. Let's hope that I want to make this. My goal is for today to be my lowest, or at least let's say yesterday. And from here on up, it's going to be an incline. I'm aspiring to that. I don't think I can just suddenly swoop straight up, but I know that I can take actions, because I have not been fully engaging the tools that are available at all to do better. So this metaphor came. It's not that great of one either, but I've been steering the ship of Hank, doing most of the work myself. So definitely I have support that others don't have in ways too, that I'm incredibly privileged to have. But I'm a 43-year-old guy who can't afford to buy new shoes. I have holes in my shoe. I need new, so that's one of my goals, is to get enough money to buy shoes. The ones I have are okay. I don't step in a lot of puddles, so the toe that pokes out the side doesn't get wet, you know. And I don't sweat that much either, so it also stays dry for that reason. Dripping sweat on my... Okay, stop it, Hank. The metaphor is I'm steering this like old ship. For some reason in this metaphor, it's an old wooden boat, you know, when they were using astrolabes and whatever the astroglide to... What do they call that thing? Abacuses? Astrolabe, right? That's that like star. And not knowing I was autistic has been like going through life unable to see the stars on this ship. And I'm in the ocean, and you need the stars. Long stretches of cloudy days, that'll fuck up the whole goddamn mission out there in the boats. You need the goddamn stars. You can tell which directions are east and west by the sun and stuff, you know, less accurately than with Google Maps, obviously. But I couldn't see the stars, and like learning I was autistic and then that sets in a whole kind of process that you reprocess almost everything in your entire past. And I'm still in the middle of that process too. I think that one probably is going to last quite a while. Learning I was autistic was like finally being able to see the goddamn stars. It was like the clouds cleared or whatever mirage was blocking the stars, or the stars weren't there and now they're there, however the mechanism would work. And that happened last year, and I've still been in this stressful kind of state. Income is terrible. My wrists, I need to absolutely get some help for. But my brain is a mess, depression and stuff, and finances and such and such and such. And so I can't just take it though. I can't just be like, I'm a bummer, and I'll do my podcast inconsistently, and hopefully a couple people are supporting. And people on Patreon are a few supporters, and I'm grateful for them. But I also stress because I feel like I'm letting them down because I'm not delivering like the routine, the regularity that I should be. I'd like to reassure those folks though who are actually the Patreon supporters that you are actually I'm working on this other project that you'll hang with me, please. You'll be glad that you were, I don't know, glad, but if you're enough of a viewer of mine to help me out on Patreon already right now, I'll be really thrilled to keep you on to let you in on some things eventually. So I'm not sure what I'm even trying to say there. It's not like it's secret exclusive stuff or whatever, but the other project I'm working on is related to a lot of the stuff I talk about all the time on here too. So hang with me. Thanks for being patient. I feel like I'm letting people down. And so yesterday, see, I wanted to keep this to an hour, which is always my goal. I have so much more. I already have a bunch of shit to look at. I just can't keep wallowing in this stuff. I'm letting it consume me too much. And so yesterday I finally, and you'd think I would have done this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I first noticed the first patch of hair loss in whatchamacallit, November-ish of COVID. So like late 2020 or so, because I had let the beard get big and scruffy around then. Just that year, I just didn't do anything to it for like 6 months or more. And then it looked great. I mean, it looked kind of like wild, but it was a full, nice beard. And then I trimmed it, and it was a patch. And that was about coming up on 3 years ago. Jesus Christ. And it's accelerating. And I'm in my head about it constantly. And I haven't looked it up. I mean, I just was just like, I don't know. It's going to be expensive to go see. I can't afford to go to a doctor no matter what. So like, what's the point of knowing anything about it? Not that I thought it through that logically. But yesterday I was getting ready for the podcast, and I noticed, and I hadn't noticed this, my hair had gotten long, which for a bald guy, long means about 5/8 of an inch when it starts to being long enough that the wind can pick it up. I was trimming myself up, and it's obviously a miserable thing to stand there in the mirror and deal with this face and look at these things, and it's, but you kind of have to just sort of go forward. What are you going to do? Sit there and melt down constantly? Yeah, you can, I guess. I've been doing that. But I noticed I had a huge bite out of my horseshoe. I went bald at 19, and I noticed not all at once. It took till about my mid-20s, but it was a pretty fast process for me. I went bald very quickly at a young age. I was even though a little part of me wishes I had started going bald around 16 or 17, because I think those are the 16-year-olds who go bald, the high school baldies, those are the true, And I don't mean like alopecia or something where it's more of a different kind of like a hormonal, or I don't know what causes alopecia, but like it's not the same as just like male pattern kind of standard baldness that I am. I know it can occur in slightly different configurations, but those high school baldies are the real emotional pioneers of the bald community. And I was just enough. I snuck in as a teen since it started when I was 19. So I still claim a seat on the council of the I don't want to use the word victim, but of those of us who didn't make it out of our teens, who couldn't even get 2 decades in before our terrible genetics kicked in. And so I did sneak in at 19, but a little part of me was like, God damn it, I wish I could be one of the 16-year-olds that went bald. No, that just would have made everything terrible too. I didn't even have a cool haircut back when I had hair. It was just like I parted it. You know, I did 2 side spikes, then a center spike, and we would do like a Matchbox car racing down my scalp. It was fun. It was fun. I was popular. They held me down. No, I was invisible. I was funny in class. The teacher would laugh, so I never got in trouble. I would just blurt shit out, and I got good grades. But I was depressed and sad, and my brother was very popular. It was fine. Could have been worse. Luckily I was large, so I didn't get beat up. But yeah, not that people were picking on me anyway. Whatever. Okay, so going bald again. So I've been bald forever. I've got a whole bunch of great stand-up about being bald. Honestly, if I ever get back on stage, I will revive some of that material. I have quite a lot of good bald jokes, in my opinion. I've heard of other bald stand-ups, and I'm always just like, that bald guy fucking sucks. This bald guy doesn't. What am I saying? Oh, so yesterday I see this. I've gotten used to seeing my hairline. I've always had this hairline, kind of, you know. And actually, annoyingly, the I never actually went fully bald. Like there's like 1% or under of hairs have always been all the way up to my top hairline here. And so this whole thing, I've always had to still trim it. It's not like I don't need to maintain it. And it's hard. It feels harder to cut that. And I call them the last trees in the desert. I've always had these like hairs here. But yesterday, I'm not even sure if you can see it anyway, but like it was a huge bite out of it that I hadn't even noticed was gone, was losing. So like, it was just this big old bite. And my hair is super short right now because I buzzed it, and on this side. So, and I've also been recently getting hair loss up on my top of my sideburns here. So now it's spreading out. And I finally fucking Googled it. What is alopecia? What does this even mean? Obviously the best thing for me would be to see a doctor and to get some health care and to get some professionals who have dealt with other cases and know what this shit is. And I did a lot of reading. I didn't break down into tears. Like, why do I feel like I'm about to? But I just finally fucking Googled it out of sheer desperation. It feels scary to read about it. I'm a mess. And I read a lot, mostly on Reddit, and I saw a bunch of people who've had other issues, males and females alike, all the genders, and there's hope. It's bad. Like I have an advanced case, I think. So there's 3 layers of alopecia. I can't just say I'm certain that's what it is. There's like alopecia shit. I already forgot the first. Alopecia areata or some shit. That's like the basic kind of beginner level, which is still really stressful. People get stressed about patches in their hair, little quarter size or coin size spots. Then it becomes, as it progresses, it becomes totalis. There's like alopecia totalis, and then it becomes alopecia universalis, which is the most rare. That's the one where your entire body loses all its hair, everything. And I'm worried. I'm scared. And I related to a lot of people's experiences writing about that the lonely, it feels very lonely. I don't want to go out. I get people stare at me. I can't afford to do any dating anyway, but I have this void in my heart for being connected to somebody, not just for all the fun, activities that require showering and tissue paper, but like I would love to be with somebody and have a connection with someone. And how am I supposed to, who's going to get all jazzed up about this fucking face? And of course I should just shave it off and keep it short. But it's not permanent necessarily. I have been my legs are fully bald. They've gone that's been happening for several years, and my arms are pretty much all the way. There's still a couple little spots with some hair. Yeah. So, and I have hair like I'm like inventorying my hair since I'm doing it. My 3 chodes, the 2 upper chodes, and then the lower, the biggest daddy of the chodes, the king chode, the queen chode, however you call it, whatever you want, the non-gender ruler chode, all fine. Nothing's being lost in those patches. Honestly, frankly, if my balls just went bald, I'd be fucking thrilled. Why can't I pick a spot? I can't. I have one circle here up on my chest here that's bald. I have fairly even, nice chest hair. Gets a little thick in the middle, and my belly's got a lot of hair too, and my back. Can't see my back. I figure I'm gonna, if I don't get a partner, someone that looks at me naked from behind, I'm probably just gonna end up dying of back cancer, because that's the number one benefit of having a relationship is they detect back cancer. Who looks at their back? Nobody. It's impossible. So I'm probably heading towards the universalis one. Not that I need to necessarily dial in on that decision, but the point is, there's two major like groupings of how to deal with this thing. One is that there's a whole array of possible causes that relate to thyroid hormone, potentially, other conditions that might be contributing to it. Sometimes the origin's not necessarily understood, but figuring that information out gives you better access to or better ability to like then treat it. There's creams, there's steroid injections, there's steroidal creams, there's also these other like something JAK inhibitor. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. So there's options. There's a lot of medical interventions, and apparently they're fairly effective, depending. Everybody's circumstances are different. But the other big bucket, and I don't really have access to that shit. I could probably order some drugs online somehow. I definitely could start self-medicating in that way with those sorts of interventions. And maybe because I'm so poor, I can get healthcare that's not as expensive as I think, because I think California actually has fairly decent, as far as American standards go, Medi-Cal stuff, because I have some mail that I got to open. I don't open mail well. I'm bad at being alive. I'm really good at like a few things, but I'm horrible at all the regular life stuff. And so then the other big one, though, and this is the one that I feel empowered about, is stress. Stress is a huge contributor to this thing, to the way the body's immune system works. So it's understood that alopecia is a autoimmune response where your body's immune system is basically going after the follicles. I was relieved, and I might be too far. It might be permanent. It's been years, but I was relieved to read that so many people have fairly healthy recoveries with this stuff, where they're similar. I saw some guys with pictures of beards like mine, and everybody of course is sharing about their feelings and the emotions of it, because it's fucking kind of horrible, and then about how they took some stock of their life, and they've got a combination of like medical intervention treatment and stress relief, or they just like did some stress relief stuff. And I am so stressed. It is, and I have been stressed forever, all the way back through my childhood. Honestly, when I was, I could get into that. I maybe I'll write a book, as if I'll ever have the wherewithal to pull that off. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to get, but like there was just some major events in my 20s regarding my mother's mental health, where there was some times where things got really scary. There was a coma. There was an involuntary commitment situation. There was a, not in that order. And then there was a starvation, attempted suicide via starvation. That's a good way to fuck you up. That's the year my drinking kicked in really bad, when I became an alcoholic, which kind of makes sense. This is like, I hesitate to go into too much detail about all that stuff, because then you'll become an alcoholic. Watching somebody starve themselves to death, and you're the person trying to stop that and get them help, And when you're actually already fundamentally incapable, very limited in your own ability to care for yourself. And then I just started medicating myself with big old drinks, and that lasted a while. So that was a big part of like my stressful. That was in my late 20s into my early 30s. And then it's just a shitty work in LA and just not finding my footing here and stumbling through shitty jobs and having a hard time getting jobs. And I'm not a good networker at all. I think I have a lot of talent in video editing and storytelling and shit like that, and like how to do it. That I'm not really proving it as much as I should be. Yeah, and now I'm at a point where the Young Turks job in 2018, I was already on the way out of LA at that point. I was just like melting down and starting to just like strategize how to get the fuck out. I'm lucky enough that if I told my dad I wanted to move home, he would give me some money and he would help me like, I wouldn't try to move all this shit. It's I would just throw it all out. I don't know what to do, or just try to get rid of it. And then move home to my dad's house. And that's not the best. Not that it's like a house of horrors, but I don't want to go live at home. That's not going to be a great place for my mental health either. So I have to figure out a way to stand on my own. And then this entire time I'm fucking autistic, meaning like it's not a negotiable. There's a phrase for that, but it's a permanent thing. It's my wiring. It's the same. It's as much of myself as the shape of your nose, right? Or the number of fingers on your hand. And, so I didn't have the tools. I couldn't see the stars. I didn't know where to go. I was struggling, and don't cry. But I was trying to get out of LA in 2018, or getting close to getting out. And then I got lucky because I had, lucky's not quite the right word, but I had kept in touch with someone at TUAT. I did a small independent editing project that summer, and then they brought me back that fall, and that was when I did my second round of working there. And it was a major relief to finally get some income. I was very low paid, $21.63 an hour for experienced video editor with a history at the company. That was low, but I was grateful for the ability to afford my bills. I wasn't saving any money. I wasn't able to afford nice things. I wasn't able to, but that's enough money to, if you don't spend on other things, and I don't have wild spending habits, that's enough money for a restaurant every once in a while, and to not feel so freaked out about things all the time, low 40s-ish, which is very, very low for a video editor in LA. That's among the reasons we started the union, because we were all like, we could all use a raise. What the fuck? This is horrible. There's people in rural states. There's like all these like data sheets that people report their income. Like the median income on this one data sheet, I don't know, like it's, I think it's called the Blue Collar Post Collective, and it was like video editors in Montana, I think it was, we're averaging 23 an hour, and I'm like over $1 under that. Whatever, I could get more into that, and I probably will someday. But it was still a big relief to have some consistent income and to do work that I was good at, and with people who I. Speaking of the other workers, not the owners of the company, but lots of folks who I really respected and liked and enjoyed being around. So I was grateful for that, but it was still very stressful conditions overall, because I still didn't know I was autistic. Not that that's the only thing about that was stressful, but very difficult to do video editing in an open work plan, like a open work office space. That's rough. That's hard, especially when you have noise and noise and light sensitivities. But I had noise canceling headphones, or if you want to use this joke, go ahead. Coworker canceling headphones, and I was able to like get focused enough to do my work when I needed to. And why did I get all into that? That ended in like early 2020. I got fired, and the union came forward after that, like a month later. We were organizing it in secret, of course. And so the stress has just been perpetual over the years. And I my resume was shit, and I also hate working, and just the concept of having to take orders from somebody just kills me. Although I will, and I need to. I mean, there's the only source of money on this planet is other humans. You got to do something. I guess if you invest, if you're a day trader, you're not technically, but you're still engaging with the world in a way. There's no magic money. You have to trade something, and only thing I can sell is my body. And I'd started this woodworking project. I actually was hoping to build out Bum Rush Industries as a sort of socialist business, a kind of example, engaging politics is directly as in the media, as someone who's like making, at TOT I was doing like video, breakdown with Francis Maxwell and Hassan Piker, the famous Hassan, of course. I wasn't his primary editor, but I was backup for, his primary. So like we all kind of had to do each other's jobs there. And, there are other ways to engage your politics. Is kind of what I was getting at with the woodworking, and the idea is that I was going to build shit stools out of found furniture. And I would find there's so much furniture in LA. There's so much stuff people throw away. And I built this little balcony workshop, and it's a good idea. I still want to follow through on it. I still want to try to make that happen. I need to do it somewhere not in LA. I feel terrible making a lot of noise on my balcony. But I developed some skills. I already had a little bit of woodworking skill. I've always been very, very handy. I can fix anything. I have a brain I have a very good like practical problem solver brain. As nutty as I am, if you point at your kitchen and you say I have something wrong right there, I will figure it out using the internet. But I'm good at that shit. I'm really good with tools. I'm really good with improvising, and I'd make a great handyman. For sure. This is partially why I know when I finally am well enough and I meet that coven of horny witches who make me their house husband. And then I just fix everything and build stuff, and we work on our chicken coop, and I'm doing shit. And then, some of them, maybe they work from home too. I don't have any rules about any of that, but I would be such a good house husband. God damn it. Like I said, we'll build separate brick pizza ovens outdoors on our large compound where we hang out and play guitar and yell about capitalism and stuff. You know what I mean? One of them will be really into crystals. All right, we'll indulge that. Why the fuck not? Makes more sense than every other goddamn stupid religion. And so then I got some woodworking skills, and I used my website that I'd made, which I actually just finally took down. I should have done that a long time ago because it's kind of expensive hosting it. I was just not doing it. And I got a job doing woodworking for $18.50 an hour. And I was desperate. I had a huge meltdown in front of my roommate, and I was so desperate for work. And I finally got this job that paid, and it was like freeing in some ways because it was, the money, it wasn't enough to pay all my bills. No benefits at all. No healthcare, nothing. The only benefit was free wood. This thing is built from what I got from there. So they let me take home their garbage. They were happy for that. And they liked to see that I was doing woodworking projects too. I mean, it's not like they were like only garbage, but it was like beautiful oak and walnut. All woodworking shops produce scraps and waste that are fucking gorgeous, that are just not meant for the specific project. And some of them will sell cutoffs online and stuff like that. And this place was cranking out stuff, and I was like basically doing production woodworking. It wasn't the kind of, I'd sort of hoped to be sort of like mentored and like apprenticed. In a sense I was. I did learn a ton. Obviously they had to teach me a bunch of stuff, of course, but they kind of left it up to you as to how to do stuff. They wanted things built a certain way, of course, but they weren't like, do it exactly this way. Like and so it was a good place for me to engage my brain. And the best thing for it was autonomy, though. I was able to go in, and however long it took me to build a cutting board or one of these bowls, these huge bowl things, or some of these other objects and items, and I took a lot of pride in everything I did, and I'm very, very meticulous. It's the same reason I'm a good video editor, is because I'm anal as fuck, and I can get into those details and really hyper focus on the small bits. But also you got to make practical choices too about how much time is worth trying to fix this missing frame or this scratch in this piece of wood on the bottom of it. Sometimes it's just like, well, we have to have some flaws. It's okay. And but the pay sucked. And what I was doing though was I was wearing out the cartilage in my wrists. I don't have one on my right hand right now. I've been doing a lot of video editing lately, so it's not actually this one's been hurting more. But my left one is not in good shape, and my right still is they're about the same right now. And now I'm disabled. Let's fast forward to I got a workers' comp payout, and but my wrists don't fucking work. I can't defend myself in a fight. Not that I'm out there getting into fights, but I can't catch myself if I fall down without injuring my wrists much more with all my weight, and it's horrifying. I have to find work. Autism's a disability. I'm still struggling with my ableism. I don't want to just run around calling myself disabled, except the fact that I fucking am. There's a reason the autistic unemployment rate is 85%. And of the profile I have, just not knowing was just like allows, and because partially what it was such a revelation, and it was kind of random. I was just sort of curious because I was reading about something else and I saw the word and I was like, I don't really know what it is. Let me read this article. Is that I was having strange behaviors and meltdowns that had been like a difference. Like I'd noticed that I'd been changing. Like my overall register is generally depression dominant, and then it became kind of anxiety dominant, and other things were kind of going on, and I was reacting to things in ways that were magnified. I've always been very sensitive in my ears. I'm the guy who is, a fire truck goes by real loud, and I'd be like, oh, like I totally crippled by it. Like it was just like, ah, oh. But I'd put my fingers in my ears, and I'm the only one, and I'm just like looking around, going like, who are these freaks that are fine with this noise going by? And I'm a big, strong, tough guy, and I don't want it. And it's embarrassing to be the big, strong, tough guy who's like, but that's the fucking autism. Sorry, I always call it fucking autism. I actually think I like the word fucking. I say it way too much, though. Honestly, I need to pull that back. Yeah. So, what the hell was I getting at? Yeah. So I'm coming to terms with that too, and having what the term invisible disability. I can be very charming. I'm actually quite quick-witted with people out in the world. I always try to make people feel at ease as much as I can. And mostly, though, I just want to disappear. I'm not one of those people who wants attention out in the world, despite being a stand-up comedian and a solo podcaster. Clearly, I want attention, but that type of person that's out in the world trying to be annoying and trying to get people to look at them and notice them, I'm not that at all. If I could just turn into a ghost and move and go buy my box of discount chicken and come home and bake it with some broccoli, I'm good. That's what I'm doing later today. And yeah, it's so disabling. It's so harsh. That's also why I need to figure out how to make this work. If I could do my own, I'm pretty sure I have a thing called PDA, which is pathological demand avoidance, which is like a profile. I'm not sure if I haven't really read up a ton about it, but it's worth a Google if you're curious. And that itself is an indication of like, not that I wouldn't be able to work for somebody or with somebody. And honestly, if I got paid better and I felt respected, which I never did at the Young Turks, or other jobs I've had in LA, I would be fine if I felt like it was something meaningful too. And I have a very difficult time doing work that has no meaning behind it. It's one thing to just take orders and do something, but you kind of give a shit. You got to show up on time, and I do. I can hold up a schedule. If there's an expectation I show up somewhere, I'm good at that. I always got really good performance reviews and all that stuff. And so like but if I can make it work without, I would be so thrilled. And I am not doing that. I have the opportunity right now to focus on this podcast and focus on doing videos and stuff. And I'm still struggling. Like last week, I was just like barely able to get out the little clips from the last episode. I'm putting up videos on YouTube late July that I recorded on July 13th, which is a poor way of approaching this project. I need to be putting in more hours and more time. And so, but I've been putting my head in the sand and also working a lot on this other thing too. And it's all, at least one way for me, and this is true for everybody, not just autistic people, but like it's very energy dependent, like the masking concept. And that's kind of what I learned was happening in the year or two before I learned I was autistic, was that my mask was falling apart around me. I've said this before, but most of the concepts, because autism is kind of this broad sort of constellation of disorders or of conditions, and it's a lot of variation. And it's generally, unless you're talking about like the psychomotor stuff, that basically just means like your ability to like move and walk and, physical activities and things, because that can be inhibited by an overproduced nervous system. When you have dysreg, I don't know the right word to say for that, but when those are apparent, and I'm the opposite of that. I'm very not clumsy. I'm like steady, great, very athletic. I can bounce my tits. No, not yet. I'm trying to work on that. I don't have the obvious kind of profile. I don't have the kind where you detect it, and I can make it disappear because I can make you feel comfortable because I can say something clever, or funny, or nice. I make a lot of decisions. My brain is very dumb, but it's a lot. I don't think of myself as a smart person. I think of myself as intelligent. I think it'd be bullshit if I acted like, if I tried to say, oh no, I don't think that. Not everybody I've ever known, but yeah, I register as an intelligent person, but I'm not smart. I finally figured it out, though. I realized this would be like the title of a book, because no smart person would do things the way I do or live the way I live. I'm just dumb faster. That's what it is. I'm a very, very fast, stupid person. I'm just dumb really quickly. Unlike most dumb people who are slow dumbs. That's the majority of dumb people. They're slow. They have cat brains. They have to sit there and think about it for 4 seconds before. I'm kind of joking. I'm a little bit joking. But yeah, I'm dumb faster. Really quickly. I'm a moron. And so that's why I will be the leader of the dumbs, right? I will outwit the stupids because I'm one of them. What am I getting at? The empowering part of this is so let me just finally the another metaphor about the autistic shift is that it's kind of like, I think I said this on the one podcast way back where I fucked up the audio talking about it. The one about me being autistic, like back in March or something like that. It's like I've been kayaking with a broom in life. It's like I've had the wrong tool this whole time, and like learning I'm autistic is like finding a paddle, a real kayak paddle. And now I still have a lot of shit to do. I have a lot of catching up to do. I have no retirement. I went through a bankruptcy many years back related to some of those issues I was talking about earlier in my late 20s. I've not been able to build any money. I have no way to pay rent. I mean, so I'm way behind in terms of, and in this country, if you don't have money going into your old age, they will, if some rich person can make money off squeezing you into one of these horrendous nursing homes for older folks that are just bleeding the Medicaid system, because there's a lot of government funding flowing through these places, but it's usually enriching somebody. It's enriching suppliers, and it's enriching the owners of these properties, and these, especially now that private equity is getting even more into this stuff. So if you can't create the placenta you need in old age yourself, or within a family structure where it's provided to, you're fucked. Elder poverty is a certainty in this country if you don't do that, and I'm far behind on all that. So something I don't need necessarily big, but I do need to reach some years of earnings here where I can start to build up. It ain't going to get better in this country. We don't have the abilities to do that. I mean, maybe once the boomers finally fucking die off in 100 years, because those are the only motherfuckers benefiting from socialized medicine right now, determined to stay alive forever and prevent the world from functioning in the future, prevent not to overgeneralize about boomers. I know that's a thing too. So all that's daunting, and my brain will inhabit the future and the past. Of course, that's at the cost of the present and the being present and all that stuff. And so that's also a major source of stress for me too, is like, it takes me, I'm still not over a lot of that shit with my mom, because my brain is it's all just this interwoven web of like pain and memories and stuff. And like, my mom basically, I'm sure codependent. This is all shit I need to say and do in therapy, but she was dumping her pain into me, and she had an incredibly stressful childhood. We had a lot of white people hurting not to say my mom was intentionally doing anything, but like generational trauma flows through abusive social societies, and America is an incredibly abusive society. And my mom was victimized horrendously. I'm not going to tell you the details again, because you'll become a double alcoholic, but she gave me a lot. She handed over a lot of that to me, and I have the exact wrong kind of brain to do that to somebody, because I don't have a duck feather brain where it just rolls right off and it goes away. I have a sticky duck. My brain is I'm the inside. I'm a foie gras goose on the end. I gotta stick to this bird metaphor. So like all that trauma that my mom had to deal with and stuff that she had struggled with into her adult years, not all of it, obviously, but a lot of it is in me and still in me. And, you know, and of course, when you at a young age are enmeshed with your parents and you're parentified, you develop your own sense of self poorly. So I've also had, you know, my confidence issues and stuff. But on the other hand, I can go on stage and swing my dick around and be a goddamn stand-up comedian hero. You know, it takes a certain kind of moxie to be able to do that. And that's fun. And I like doing stuff like that. And it's fun. And I want to do a podcast thing that's fun too. That's why yesterday I was like, I am not in the right energy space for this. Wow, we're already at 41 minutes. Jesus Christ, we're barely going to be able to watch Dianne Feinstein hardly talk or forget where she is. Or maybe we'll only do that. Okay, hold on again. Nothing like a fist to set yourself up. So my head, it's a horror show in here, man. Like it's another kind of conceptualization of it. It is kind of like I'm just allergic to capitalism. Like everything that capitalism does to the world, which is isolates people, alienates people from their labor, disrupts communities, interrupts the solidarity that's natural to human beings, because human beings, we love each other's successes and joys. Like we help each other because it feels good. We're altruistically motivated animals. It's evolutionarily advantageous to have developed that ability. We're these collective beings, and our entire human instincts have been manipulated and controlled. And in every had I been born 50,000 years ago with this kind of brain still, I might have still had some social issues and stuff, but it wouldn't have been capitalistic alienation. We would have been building cool things out of sticks and ropes and, you know, weaving thing. It would have been amazing. I would have been one of those guys that's like part of the family, part of the tribe, maybe not although we wouldn't have necessarily been wearing condoms, because they were just orgy banging back then, weren't they? At least I like to think so. But I would have been someone who was like mucking around in the stream and figured out how to trap fish. For some reason, I always just picture myself poking sticks into the ground and developing those like narrow fish traps. The sorts of positive, like the one of the things that I think is, and I'm going to get to the empowering stuff in a bit. I'm going to at least try to remember to do that. Sorry. I picked up a pencil that I'm supposed to go get a job with two hands that don't work. That's great. I need to figure out how to talk for a living. That would be fucking awesome. Until I sprain my mouth. These are not sprains. It's cartilage or something. It's not just weight. It's not just weighted out. I just fucked it up. I just totally killed off the thing I was saying about being an old timey 50,000 years allergic to capitalism guy. Yeah. All right. Well, that's gone. Fuck it. I could watch the video and bring it back, but damn, I do very much. I mean, this needs to be assessed, but honestly, like I'm not looking to get formally diagnosed for autism. It's incredibly expensive. It also comes with a lot of downsides, and the list of upsides is mainly just validation in a way. And I guess in a sense I would like that, but you can get stigmatized. There's discrimination. There's a lot of bullshit that comes along with it. But I do think I should try to get assessed for ADHD, because I can just feel my mind, this butterfly thing happening in there. This is just like, I can just tell. And social media is making that worse. And so here's the empowering shit. This is the stuff that yesterday I was not at, even though I kind of always understood that there's more power here available. But like, I can deal with the stress stuff. There are 5 years ago for 2 weeks, I did yoga on Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. She's like a big YouTube yoga legend. I fell in love with her too, because I think everybody probably does. I had a stand-up bit that was like the hardest part about yoga is falling in love. But I did it for like this beginner shit, and I'm terrible. And I did it for 2 weeks, and I just remember those 2 weeks, I felt so good. My body was, aside from the physical benefits you feel as you start to exercise more regularly, because that does take a little bit of time, but mentally, I was in a whole different realm almost. And so yesterday, I'm reading all these people's stories about alopecia and how stress is a major driver of it, and what they did. They took some stock of their life, and they made some changes. Diet is a big thing. I'm carrying a lot of extra weight right now. Honestly, this shirt I'm wearing doesn't even, like, I can button it all the way, but it's like snug, even though this is sort of a shirt that would normally be somewhat billowy on me. And I keep threatening. I have been like pulling together stretches of better eating. I do like, I used to do a lot of keto. I was persuaded, I still am actually, that human beings are not, we didn't evolve with Doritos or grain even. And so, of course, carbs are something our bodies can process, but the abundance of it in our bodies produces, the way I approach it is it's a hormone, a way of using hormones to regulate weight instead of just calories. And so low carb, but I don't, people get all wrapped up in that keto, like the kind of nonsense around it and the businesses behind it and the misunderstandings and shit. I did a lot of reading and a lot of podcast like listening and forums and shit, and I'm not and I had a couple years where I was basically eating a ketogenic diet and felt great, functioning really well. I mean, not like in the world, but it used to mean like my weight was down and my poops were really healthy. So I've been, this year though, I've just been treating my stress with Chinese food and Mexican food, and every once in a while it's fine. I'm not a freak about it at all, but chronically leaning into that has set me down a course of putting on weight. And so my body is challenged in that sense, nutritionally, mentally. I have body image issues, so of course that adds to it. And so I can lose some weight now. Like I could actually finally, like, I think I finally found the motivation I needed yesterday is kind of what I'm getting at. And so I'm starting today. And what I did is, and a major one too, is like because what autism essentially is like an overproduced nervous system. One way I've thought of describing it is like if everybody, as their little 3D printed in their mother's womb, there's an electrician wiring them up. And autistic people basically had two electricians who did not work together, who did a full job. So there's extra shit, and it's a little wires are crossed all over the place. This is also, for me, this is a good way to conceptualize it as basically like the way your thyroid gland, is that what they call it, can overproduce thyroid hormone, or something in your body that is supposed to produce this much is actually going to produce this much. And so an autistic person generally, and it also relates to the amount of information that's taken in and what it's like to process all that information too, for sure, which that then downstream from all that is the inabilities or the dysregulation with how they have social interaction. And that is incredibly costly. Like I've always struggled with friends and keeping friends and making friends. I mean, I've had some close friends here and there, very little in terms of a girlfriend. A couple under 3 years of my entire life, I've had a girlfriend, and yeah, it's very complicated. It becomes very complicated once you start reaching the social parts of it. But the nervous system is abundant and dysregulated, and it doesn't. And that's also what kind of accounts for why someone like myself, who you would meet and you wouldn't necessarily think is there anything wrong with, versus like an autistic person who you might describe as high support needs. I still don't know all the perfect language for describing that, but someone who is more than likely diagnosed at a much younger age because there are certain kind of like symptoms that are like far outside of, that wouldn't be as invisible as me, obviously, you know, that's what I mean. And it's weird that you'd think that those two, the same label is applied to me and that person. And, but when you think about the process of wiring a head up and nervous system and spinal cord, it's your nerves. It's literally every single part of your body. It's everything runs on electricity, basically. So it's, what's the right word? There's a word for that. I got to figure that out. This accounts for why you have this variety of manifestation. And when you look at some of these articles, if anybody leaves a comment, or if you want to know, there's this one article that I do like to share with people that really gives a good way of getting your head around what it is to be autistic and stuff. I guess it's also going to change over time too. I think as in 50 years, if we're using the same words and we're describing things exactly the same, I mean, I don't think we will, is what I'm saying. I think over time we will probably develop more accurate and better, more comprehensive categorizations and labels and taxonomies. And that's if you're only leaning into the medical model of understanding these things. There's all sorts of other approaches to this stuff too. So I read about all these people who had their hair fall out and were devastated by it and sought help and made some changes and did better. And a huge one for me is my phone. I use my phone in bed too much. I get on Twitter. I get all worked up. I don't sit there and go, but I feel it. I feel my body just react, and I can tell it's not good for me. And then I lose, get to that kind of like time blindness when you're caught up in one of these social media things. It's like a big spider web that traps you, and then it's Mark Zuckerberg's face, by the way, or Elon Musk's face. Drinking while you're sitting there scrubbing and scrolling and scrubbing. Do people call it scrubbing? That's not what they say. And suddenly hours go by, you don't even realize what the hell just happened, or whatever it is. And do you feel better? Do you have anything lasting out of that? Usually no. I kind of need to pay attention to the world for this sort of podcasting I'm trying to do. But I'm torturing myself with that shit. And it's my responsibility to not, even though it's obviously systemic in terms of like this culture and the psychology manipulation that is designed to do this. I think phones are not necessarily on their own the death knell of a species, but one like ours, where the dominant mode is how much can you manipulate other people, because manipulating other people can lead to control and profits. We have a very hierarchical kind of world. It's just rooted in our core that we don't realize how bad it is. And so like we're entering an era of where technology is so powerful, but it's being used so irresponsibly, including the technology of money. I think we need to completely reorient our concepts of that, but I can go down that ramble if another time, but it's my responsibility to get off of it. Right. Like it's, so I got to stop using the fucking phone. And I've had periods where I've read a bunch. I was actually already read one book this year, and I started a book, Slavery by Another Name, which I got a good bit into, and it was very fascinating stuff that I would like to talk about on the podcast, or maybe even eventually bring on guests when I'm at that point in my wellness journey, where I feel up to having to figure out all the ways of doing that, because I hate booking, talking to authors or writers and stuff, and that would be kind of fun. And so last night, actually watched a movie with my roommate. What the hell was that movie? They Come Knocking, like a little horror kind of thing. Could have been worse, could have been better, ask for more details. But I was determined to wake up today and like not just fall back into it, because I hit these little inspired feeling moments where I'm like, all right, tomorrow I'm getting it together, or okay, I'm going to clean this up real good. But yesterday was a real like, Like I really just like was broken down and just fuck, because this shit is available to me. Reading a book, I have a Kindle. I can get free books from the library, California Public Library, and I think other states might do this too. But it's through the app Libby. Really good app, honestly. Like fucking great app. So convenient. And this morning I read a little bit. I'm in the book 2 of N.K. Jemison's The Broken Earth trilogy. Freaking great. I'm really enjoying it. I think there's going to be a movie or eventually some kind of IP, because that writer, N.K. Jemison, she's like blowing the hell up. I'm pretty sure she's, at least I see that she wins awards. I don't go onto the book forums and read about who the up and coming writers are, but she seems like she's got a hell of a lot going on in terms of like awards. And I love this story I'm reading. So it's nice to kind of get back into that. And so that's a way of not pinging my nerve. Not the first thing I do in the morning shouldn't be like, okay, all right, Elon Musk. Oh, cute cat. Oh my God, there's a dog. Oh, that's a fucking jerk. Goddamn capitalism. Because, I follow a bunch of people that also don't like capitalism, or just some stupid jokes. Like our brains are not meant for that shit. And my nervous system of all, especially, I shouldn't be doing that to me. It's downright abusive, honestly. I have a hard enough time with my own anxieties and issues and the way my brain immediately spins into hyper mode the moment I wake up anyway. And so I need distraction. I listen to a lot of podcasts because otherwise I get lost in my thoughts, which is probably something I could probably pull back onto. Caffeine is a big one I need to pull away from, although I just bought a whole new thing, so I'm going to slowly taper off. I have not bought soda in a couple weeks, which is actually another thing I've been aiming for money reasons, as well as, caffeine. And I don't think it's good to be drinking all that soda, plus the plastic and the pollution, whatever. So I was determined, man. I was fucking determined today to like actually step forward into these things. And it's easy. And this is also risking the notion, because I didn't really mean to talk. We're almost at an hour now. So I really didn't mean to talk about it, to the degree where I've done this before with other projects where I have an idea or I'll just share it with somebody and then I get like praised for the idea. And then it's almost like that's all I needed for that idea to feel like I've done it. And instead I don't even follow through. So I do kind of like the advice you hear about creative projects, or just do it. Don't tell people about it until you're really done with it. So that's not, I hope that's not what I'm doing now. And I don't feel like it is, but so I read a book. I didn't look at Twitter. I haven't even looked at Twitter yet today. It's noon. Other than the tweets that I had bookmarked, which have that fucking X on them now, which is just so gross. That Elon Musk is what a garbage person. When you have enough power to ruin a letter of the alphabet, you have too much power. And you need to be chopped down. We shouldn't. It's insane that we tolerate the existence of billionaires, let alone 500 millionaires. My line is 50 million. If you said, Hank, you get to draw the line, I would draw it at 50. I would. You could persuade me to do less, though, for sure. I've yet to ever see any kind of argument, not that I look for this precisely, but that how the world would be worse if we limited a person's asset control to $50 million. The world would not be worse. So in my opinion, it would be far better. Because all that rest of it would then be spread out differently, empowering people to vote. Hopefully we make decisions democratically. That's about the best we could do. And people would, like, capitalism is anti-democracy. It's anti-democratic because if it weren't, they would let you vote for capital. They know nobody would vote for capitalism, just in general. Like, and another concept of voting is consent. You wouldn't consent to the world the way it is. And like when a union shows up at a workplace, that's actually a arrival of capitalism. It's an outbreak of wrong word. Democracy. It's an arrival of democracy. It's an outbreak of democracy that's threatening to the boss, because you're now renegotiating the terms of consent. And a group of people is way more fucking powerful than an individual. And so they have all these techniques for disrupting solidarity. That, like, as I got fired, so I can't say I experienced it, but like very much, since I was on the core group of people who started the union at the Young Turks, it's pretty crazy story there. I really think that story deserves more attention. what am I getting? I'm starting to thread off into the wrong directions here. Oh, so, oh yeah, Elon Musk ruining X. Like the letter X used to be one of our cool letters. Used to be a cool letter. What are your top 5 cool letters, by the way? What do you think out of the 26 English letters? What do you think? What would be yours? Now, the only cool letter we have left, in my opinion, is Z. Z's a cool letter. Q could be, but Q's kind of fucked up. Q has just basically become a portal to a horrifying realm of make-believe. That's not, there's some interesting stuff there. I think G is kind of cool, but G is definitely not top 3. G's like 5, maybe 5 or 6. G's a pretty cool letter too. We could get rid of J. We don't need J. Fuck J. J sucks. We could H, right? Javier. Just spell it with an H. Javier. Like our Spanish-speaking friends do. What was the other cool letter? I had, S. I thought S is not so cool, but it's top. S is just a high performance. S is always, S is a huge, huge letter for sure. Yeah. But X, the guy he's such a dolt in a Nimrod that he's destroying a letter. The coolest one we had. There's not now X-Men, or people are just gonna think of Elon Musk men. No, I know. But what a fucking loser that weirdo Elon Musk is. My God, what a piece of shit. It's so bad. All right, so yeah, back to the empowering stuff, since I'm trying to keep on some kind of thread here. So this morning, so I read a book right away. And also I didn't just lay there and try to go back to sleep too. I do that a lot. That's another thing that I think depressed, unemployed people do. Just like, oh God, can I just get another hour? But I had gotten good enough sleep and I was like, all right, just get up, just don't, or read the book. You can lay in bed and read the book. That's cool. I let I put my heels together and tried to do some hip mobility. I really want to get good hip strength and hip mobility. I do eventually expect to have sex before my 50s hit. So I've got like a few years to, some years to go there. And you got to have good hips. I don't want to be that guy. It's already bad enough that I'm going to have the body I have for it. But, it'll, lose some weight, get some confidence. And then I also don't want to have like severe hip issues in the middle of it, because that's not fun. No horny person enjoys that. So what am I getting at? So read the book, and then I not looking at the phone, and I got up and I cleaned a little. I made some space back here, and this room is not great for yoga. It doesn't have a ton of space, but because the bed, whatever, I could probably use the living room for sure. And a friend had recommended a YouTube site for like exercise stuff. I checked that out. I watched a couple of things, got trying to kind of like shift my head over. And then I did some yoga. I found a 15-minute yoga for beginners, for stress reduction, just search for the shit you're dealing with. And it was fine. I did it. I got real sweaty. It was, it's a bit hot these days. And so, but I read, I did yoga, and then I meditated yesterday. So I did start yesterday, but then I meditated after doing yoga for 10 minutes. Using Headspace, the app. I know it's kind of sad that I still require all this information infrastructure to bring me to stuff. But nevertheless, that's such a better way to start my day. And I can already tell it. I can feel my body. I'm, like kind of like being like, okay, I don't like it. There's part of it that me is like, oh, especially the middle of the yoga, where you're just like, God damn it. This was beginner shit, man. But I was still like struggling, and like my gut is in the way. And this girl, she's like, okay, now just lean forward, walk yourself out. And I was like, all right. I got about 4 inches. I was like, it's yoga teachers are the most pretzel people on the goddamn planet. So they don't, I know some have different approaches, and like, I got to do yoga for out of shape people. There's some yoga shit that's just like, what is this? What the fuck is wrong with you people? I'm not going to do that. No, I think it's great. As you go along, your body really responds. So a human body is really a beautiful, wonderful, incredible thing. It truly is. And it wants to be challenged. It doesn't give up its rewards easily. for free, but if you demand in the form of effort like that, it can pay. It'll pay out for you, and it just sucks. I even think of it as a payment too, because it's that sort of maintains the rubric that we're all struggling under. So today was a good start, and I even wrote down some notes in a little book, stating just tracking the shit that I did. I was feeling that, and when I'm in a better place, I've had smoother brain spaces, and I can really tell that, and I'm expecting this to happen, that I can think better, that I can just tell that I'm engaging my thoughts better, that I'm not the butterfly brain that's been really bad this last month is going to taper down and cool down. And like, I just would like to read this after, like, and I'm going to try to, I'm surely going to have slip ups here and there. But I'm just going to try to read. Every time I read, I feel so fucking happy that I'm reading, even though I hate it the moment I do it. The moment I start, I feel like I'm missing my social media addiction. But about a sentence in, and the breathing calms, things become nice, and I start to read, and it's really nice. I love to read. I need to, God damn it. You see people who are like, oh, I read 2 books this week. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? I read very slow. I'm kind of a slow reader. High comprehension, but slow. So we're working on it, man. I'm trying, and I haven't been trying, and I haven't been doing my best. And it's also dishonoring my roommate, who's just like a tremendously wonderful person, and who's helping me so much. And he deserves better. Another major component of this whole effort is clutter, is all this mess, all this shit that just sits there in piles. I'm not going to show everybody, but like, partly that whole minimalism concept, or whatever the fuck, or just like the idea that for me, it's very literal in terms of photons. It's about contrast, because my whole goddamn thing is I take in everything I see, I think fairly accurately, and then I just do a lot of processing. I think that's kind of my autistic, something that separates me from non-autistic people is I think my antenna is just a lot bigger in terms of its data capture. Like, most people are just picking up the visible light spectrum, and I'm picking up that plus the non-visible parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, and then it all gets processed and stuff. So yeah, it's, I don't know if that makes any sense, but the contrasting bits, the more things you have in front of you, if you have a blank wall that's very low contrast, if you put one painting in the middle of it, now you have some contrast, but not much. And the more you add paintings around it, you're increasing the differences between one shade of dark to light, or light to dark shade. So your mind now has to process more data. You could take a Photoshop document and make it one white wall, put a little, okay, you need a little bit of texture on it. All right, that's low contrast. There's not a lot going on there. The file size will be very small, in a literal way. Like, literally the information is lower. And then if you start drawing a lot of stuff, putting a lot of different information in that is to say, via different shades of different colors, and you get a complex image, that's more contrast. The file will be larger. It'll take up more hard drive space. And in a very real way, I'm sure, I hope people listening to this can relate. If you're still listening, thank you. God bless you. Why did I say that? Your own environment has so much to do with your mental capacity. And I have time to clean, and to keep things tidy, and to actually put shit away and throw away a bunch of this fucking crap I don't use and don't need. Between my roommate and I, we got so much electronics too, old video cards and computer chassis, and my old monitor that busted over there, like all kinds of crap to get rid of that. Like, I want to recycle the electronics somehow. I know that's kind of a thing I need to figure out. If anybody has any tips for that, let me know. I've already done a little Googling for it, so I have somewhat of an idea, but what a gift it would be to myself if I turned my room into a comfortable sanctuary where no unnecessary contrast, let's say, where the clutter is gone, or contained at least. And I struggle with this. This is a very difficult thing for me. This is going to be an ongoing thing. Even fully knowing that the energy that's required for 5 or 10 minutes of cleaning or organizing a day or every other day, because it's a constant thing. It never ends. It's like dishes. If you eat at your house, dishes are just a perpetual production. They're just constantly building, and you have to do that. But 5 or 10 minutes of energy expenditure is all it really takes. Once you're at a place where it's good, it's going to take a bit more than that to get there. And I'm not going to try to do it all at once, because that's also overshooting, and that's also counterproductive. And same with their downstairs area, for my roommate's benefit and mine. I think we're both a little bit. One of the reasons we're good buddies is because we're like slobs. We're like slobs in our natural habitat. But we have comparable tolerances, which is also sort of maybe self-reinforcing in ways that are probably not great. But I have a responsibility to do better with everything, all that stuff too. So he and I communicate very well, so we'll be able to even stuff that's his piles or whatever, we can work on that and clean shit up and make it so that the place where you live is conducive to the stress reduction. Because to get my hair to grow back and to sustain my ability to produce this podcast and to put out videos and to work on this other project and maybe find a job, I think I could do part-time editing. I actually have a small thing that's going to pay a little bit of money coming up here this week, that it might be some editing too. So I'm grateful for that. But like some part-time work, I think I could probably sustain. A full-time, this is your career, you got to put in the hours. I don't do that shit. I can't do it. I'll melt down and it won't last. It's like literally not going to work. It's so hard for me, especially at this point. But the house can be a sanctuary, or the environment needs to be conducive and helpful, and it's just going to take me operating in a way that is completely against the entire way that I operate. So nice and easy, but it's truly less energy, because that energy comes back to you in the form that I didn't have whenever I look around. And not that everything is like, mostly I don't put anything on my walls. I do have a lumber rack above my dresser. It's pretty cool. It's got a bunch of like woodworking products that I built over the time. To not have to spend all that, like, you don't realize how much you're being taxed by the contrast god, by the fact that you have all this clutter and all this kind of disarray in your space and in your environment, and just the feeling of cleanliness and like my bathrooms are always gross. I share it with a cat. She deserves better. I don't clean her boxes as regularly as I need to. So these are all habits I'm going to be working on, and I'd like to be updated. Of course I'm going to be updating. This is a fucking hour and 13, 14 minute podcast or whatever already. Maybe hour and 12, depending on, I'll share. And I imagine if you're still listening to this, you're probably hoping it turns out better. I don't want next podcast to be like, well, guys, I tried. I did it. No, I feel like we're at a point, man, I feel so much better today just doing 15 minutes of horrible, embarrassing yoga and some meditating and some reading. Is that really so much to like turn down looking at Elon Musk's website or whatever other thing is on the internet that I get wrapped up in? I have been using Reddit a lot more. I'm trying to pull away from Twitter. It's a really disgusting place. He's it's like, yeah, it's approaching the point where it's like, I mean, it probably should have already been there, but I'm sustaining it because I'm anticipating needing it to keep in touch with people. But eventually I really want to get off Twitter. I think, and I don't want to go onto Threads. The Zuckerberg. I fucking hate Mark Zuckerberg. It's bad enough that I use Instagram, but I might try Blue Sky if I have to. I think I will. I don't know. You have to have some kind of presence on these things if you're going to be doing the shit that I'm trying to do, I guess. But I'm just trying to. I'm going to keep this open. I mean, I'm not making like strict decisions on how that should all go down. Oh my God. I don't know. Who wants to watch Dianne Feinstein be confused now? I think I'll just call it a day, honestly. I don't really have Maybe I'll just do 2 podcasts today, and we'll just do the one without all this stuff. This will be like a personal update. Yeah. Yeah. The stuff this is what I'm thinking right now is like all the posting and the Patreon and the putting stuff out and the editing, even though I'm good at editing and etc. But like that's all the crap that feels so onerous on me as opposed to the part where I just talk and share my thoughts. So like my dream to be a person paid for talking, my dream is not necessarily like a radio, but like a radio kind of model where like I just show up, I read the news, I pay attention to things, maybe I produce some of the different ideas and I get ready, but it's all just about prepping for putting out the best content and show. And then other people are involved and they take care of those other tasks and chores. And that's the like the YouTube channels and stuff where people have other people working for. I mean, that's obviously a huge, not that I want working for me, but partnering with people, or I don't know how that exactly would be shaped. If someone did, if it was a working for situation, yeah, I would absolutely be, you know, very, very insistent on, high standards and lots of money, paying people properly. This money stuff is just so nuts. It's so bonkers. Yeah. Well, okay. I guess that's it. I don't know what else there is to do. Want to look at a board real quick? Look at this board. I've been cleaning up and stuff, so I've got like a bunch of shit. Hold on. Pull it. Okay, there it goes. Look at this board. Huh? I glued this together at my old job. This is walnut and nice piece of the light piece. I put it in the middle there, so it looks kind of cool. I don't know what to make with this thing. What would you do with this board? It could be a lap tray. I could carve it out a little bit. I could add some edging to it and make it kind of a tray that way. I could just leave it as is. It actually is already in close enough condition to be a cutting board. I'd have to sand it down, I think, a little bit. But fucking gorgeous. This is just garbage that my woodworking shop was going to throw away. All these like strips and stuff. So I have a whole bunch. I'd like to fill in these edges or these pits, these knots with acrylic. I don't have to. They look fine without it. You can also fill it with black cyanoacrylate glue, which is cool. That's something a lot of woodworkers do to fill in these things to stabilize it as well. But I've enjoyed messing with acrylic. Oh, fuck. Even though it's plastic, it's all part of the chemical, mill that we're living in as a world. But because it gives you these nice little indications of color and stuff. So I don't know, it's a cool board. It's pretty neat. I really would love to do eventually, because I can do woodworking with enough wrist. Like I've overdone it. If I wrap up my hands, my wrist really strong, and I take my time, I can do woodworking on my balcony on small items and stuff. And like one thing I really want to be able to build is these mallets. I think it would be so fun if there was some way where people bought these from me as a way to support the show and the channel. And they'd be expensive. I'm not looking for, you want a cheap mallet, go ahead. Go find one out in the other world. I don't know how much to charge. It's jumping ahead. But the way I shaped this handle is like I was thinking about it I wanted it to feel like a bone. So here, why am I doing it so far away? You can kind of see this sort of edging, like that kind of shape, So I sort of was thinking it would be a bone. This is a leg of a table that I found on the street, and this is construction wood. I think it's Douglas fir, and this is walnut. These are walnut wedges that are jammed in there, so it's permanently. I mean, it would be really it's not going to pull out. It's a wedge. It's wedged in and hammered and glued. They're really fun though. They're just cool items, and it would be really neat to produce them. Although the way I did all this shaping was with a what's it called? It's a very aggressive Japanese rasp, the Shinzo rasp. It's essentially just like a big flat saw, and it's great for shaping and stuff, but that's rough on my hands. So I'm not sure. We'll have to adapt around all that. If I could ever get some healthcare, maybe there's medical interventions for my wrists, and maybe I don't have to have disabled wrists my entire life. It's very daunting when you start really thinking about all the times where you need your wrists because even just holding that, like I can tell my right wrist right now is like, dude, what are you doing? That hurts. So, yeah, yeah. All right, yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do that because I also, sorry, final thing. I want to follow through on my other like video projects too. Partly what I think could be a way for people to perceive enough value if I'm producing hard enough to justify a few dollars a month. It would be like making videos about woodworking and stuff, and maybe the way it works. This is the dream. I don't know if this is the dream, but I think it'd be awesome if like someone told me a problem they're having, not emotional, like a woodworking, something that can be solved with woodworking. Like, hey, I need a spice rack, or hey, I need this spot in my kitchen. I want something for my knives. I want to do a magnetic knife holder or something, or just something like this. Maybe you just commission something, or I make 2 or 3 out of a batch, and then they're for sale. But perhaps it would be really fun to incorporate the person's story into why I'm building something, because I can't do production woodworking. I can't just like crank out. Like I've shown my neighbor who I love. She's so fun. I like her a lot. And she's like all down with the woodworking stuff, and she's handy herself, and she's cool. So we talk a bunch when I see her. And I showed her this thing I made. And she's like, "Oh my God, you could sell those for this much money." And it's like, yeah, it's like even for $100. Like, okay, let's say if I sold this for whatever, I think it was like a nice candle holder or something, and it's like, I have to make 40 grand a year at $200. Oh shit. No, I can't do the math on that. But like, there's just no way I can make 10 a week or whatever it takes and then sell and ship them all. It's like, it's literally impossible. But going slow, making something that's like a story, that's a project kind of piece for somebody else. And then hopefully it's supported, not just because that person might, I mean, honestly, we're talking about tens of hours of work. So yeah, I think some money should come along that way. And it's a way to support my show and this whole deal. And then we have a video that might also generate, although none of the videos I do are like making money or anything. That's absurd. There's nowhere near close to that. And I don't ever expect to be, honestly, even when I'm at bigger numbers. I still always want it to be sort of audience member funded, whatever. But yeah, that would be, to me, that seems, I can imagine that future where, yeah, whatever it might be, even something weird, frames for small pictures, or just even like, I love to build trays. I'd like to do large custom or like large furniture pieces, sort of. I don't feel very drawn to that stuff like a lot of people who get into woodworking do, but I don't have the capacity. I mean, just my woodworking shop is a 4-foot balcony. I have this much space to stand. I mean, I have this much space to stand. I don't have any. I mean, and yeah, it's small. It's very limited, so I can only build smaller things. And plus, I'm not going to be able to ship somebody a dresser, but trays and little things. And see, just the fact that I'm hoping people get into my woodworking bullshit right now is an indication, because I have not had these thoughts in months or a month or whatever, because I've been just like kind of lost in my feels about my fucking shit. And so as I keep going, tomorrow morning I'm going to do more stuff. I'm going to try to do some more stretching tonight before bed, some meditating, brush my teeth properly, meaning I have a water pick, which is always kind of rewarding when you see the little bits come squirting out, even after you've brushed, because you don't get it all when you brush. So doing better on that. I live in terror of tooth problems. I've had them before. They're very, very painful, and they're incredibly expensive. And that would be rough if my teeth started to cause me issues. So I could prevent that problem, and it feels better. And you should brush your teeth soon after eating. That's also something I need to get better at. So, all right. Well, so this is the improvement hour here with Hank. Okay, we're making changes. The changes will be, hopefully, what you'll perceive is me feeling better, obviously, speaking better, obviously, all that kind of shit that's sort of subtle, but more consistent output. And there was another one there I had there too. yeah, I don't know. Eventually, this shirt won't be so snug. You know, I'm pretty confident with my weight loss ability. I've lost weight in the past, and eating a low carb, high fat. It basically just means meat and veggies. I just eat a bunch of. I'm gonna cook a chicken casserole today with chicken thighs. I have broccoli and cauliflower, and I'll put it's not a spoon. It's like a big tall spoon. A can. A can of mushroom condensed soup, whatever the fuck, mushroom soup. Put it in there. Okay, we'll wrap on this. Pay attention for all you home chefs. When you cook meat in stuff, unless you're actually trying to make stew and you want it to be all wet, that's also fine. But when you cook like a casserole or something and you just plop your meat down on top of it, because I basically will just do a bed of veggies. You can just do onions, mushrooms. You can add all the ones you want. Make kind of sizable chunks generally. And then you plop your chicken down on top of that. You're not going to cook the chicken as thoroughly as you might. Or not thoroughly, but like the part that touches the wet bits are going to get kind of nasty, kind of gross. Like, so people use roasting racks for this sort of thing. You can buy metal cross roasting racks that you could just set your stuff down on. I buy chicken parts. Usually it's one of the more affordable meats for me. You can get it as cheap as 99 cents a pound. I only ever buy like, in fact, the one I have expired yesterday, but I've done it enough. It'll be fine. What I've figured out, here's the tip part, is when I'm using broccoli or even cauliflower, but I keep the stem. I trim the ugly bit. I might peel it a little bit with the knife, but I'll cut the broccoli up into bigger chunks, and you can also use cauliflower the same, and let the stem, the trunk of the broccoli, poke up, position it, and then use the upright pieces of the broccoli as basically a roasting rack. So you can put your pieces of chicken on top of those, and they can kind of like suspend, because you just need a little bit of air underneath there for it to not just sit there and get sogged up on the bottom, because that gets kind of funky. I still eat that shit, of course. And then all the chicken fat and whatever drizzles out into, the kind of casserole thing. If it's runny, you could use cornstarch to thicken it. I don't think you're gonna blow out your carbohydrate intake with cornstarch. But if you want to avoid that, I have a thing of xanthan gum, which is a really powerful thickening agent. Actually, it's like one of those things where all the advice says don't use too much, and then you kind of go slow. But I have used too much, and it's amazing. It's just like gums it all up real quick into sort of gelatinous. It's kind of gross, but like it thickens up the soup if it's a little bit runny. Sometimes it's not. Yeah, that'll be part of too, trying to get my hair to grow back and reading about it. These guys are talking about what it looks like. It's like, the hairs will probably come back. They'll be really small. They'll probably be white. It'd be amazing. I would feel so good if I was, because I touch my face a lot. If I felt hairs here, and God, that would feel good. And so the stress, I got to get the stress down, and that's what it is. That's just, I've been burning my stress. I've been so stressed for so long, and yeah. Okay. Going back to the same topic. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Didn't do any actual politics and stuff, I guess. A little bit of talk, but God, I hope that wasn't all just nonsense and boring. But thanks for support, everybody. I appreciate that you're listening. And if it's not going to click over into being perfect releases on an exact schedule right away. There's no excuse for that. I probably could make that work. When I'm on the other side of this other project, though, that's going to be an interesting, that'll free up an awful lot of RAM, and things are going to be really interesting when that all happens too. So then that's going to be a major gift. So stay tuned for that. That's exciting stuff, honestly. Yeah. All right. That's it. I think we did it. You guys are awesome. Goodbye. Thanks. I almost said wish me well, which I guess wouldn't be that weird. But yeah, man, by the next time I will have more rounds of yoga and meditation, and even I'm going to start weightlifting too, because that's healthy and my body likes weightlifting. Although my hands, I have to be careful. So muscle, I need to add muscle. Yeah. All right. I got, okay. Well, we'll go back to how muscular things are going to be eventually. Maybe I'll just show some booty pics after I get into it. Okay. All right. Goodbye. Bye-bye. See you. Bye. Take care. Bye.